viewers, it's me again, Dharma Biker. It's really difficult to be in a position of giving teachings without trying to appear to be superior than others, but I really don't feel that. I could take this opportunity to talk about ego. You know, what a lot of people assume to be ego is when someone has an idea that they're grander, better, more intelligent, more handsome, superior to others, and it is ego, but also it's just one aspect, one facet of ego, because ego really is a defensive mechanism. It's any mechanism we use to separate ourselves from others, whether that be in a elevated capacity, such as the one I've just been talking about, or even actually the opposite end of the spectrum, where you feel inferior, but it's also a defensive mechanism. And there are many, many more. And you know, everyone has their strategies and techniques that are learned from a very young age and fortified over time, in which we use to protect ourselves from being hurt. But in the long run, actually, it makes us, even though we surround ourselves with these walls, defensive walls, that we feel so separated from each other and so lonely. That's why everyone feels so insular and isolated from each other, because of the defensive mechanisms that we employ. And the idea, I think, or when we work towards being liberated, it is by breaking down, using techniques to break down these mechanisms, these ingrained habits and techniques that we've built up over many, many years. And once we start to work on that, we start to, you don't break down the walls completely, but you start to poke holes in the defensive mechanism by, you know, challenging the ego and doing things which help to dissolve it to a degree. You start to feel more ventilated, happier, and more vulnerable. So part of the path, if you like, to being liberated from this heavily enforced armour that we build around ourselves is actually to feel vulnerable. To connect to our soft and vulnerable humanity, if you like, our human vulnerabilities, which actually can be our strength, because by doing so we realise that is the feeling of being connected to one another is a far greater of far greater worth and benefit than being isolated from each other. And when we look at things, when we look at the structure of human interaction and society, it is about cooperation. No one person is a self-contained component separate from society. We rely on each other for everything. So this idea about big me doing everything for myself is a bit ridiculous. You look about one thing that you made yourself, I bet you can't find one. So it's about breaking down the illusion of separateness and having the courage to be vulnerable, and out of that the reward of connection with others in a heartfelt way is just absolutely blissful. And also once you start to work on your own stuff, other people's foibles and techniques and neurosis or neurotic tendencies and habits and defensive mechanisms that they use to protect themselves become so obvious. And I don't mean that in a sort of derivative way to put someone down, but you can just see it. So when someone's really bolstering themselves up, you know that underneath there's this tender vulnerability. But in order to know that, you have to discover it in yourself, And then you realise that is in everyone. And you can feel so much happier, actually. So much happier when you realise or re-establish the connections. Not just with people, actually. With the animal kingdom, with our environment, with everything. Anyway, there's a little bit of spiel for now. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, let me know. Click on subscribe, like, it'd be much appreciated. Thanks for listening.